Hi, Amy.
Hi, Mario.
Hi, Shavua Tov.
Oh, I don't see any. Wait until there's more people. How do you feel,
All right, thank God.
Anna?
Okay, also,
Thank God.
both over the COVID.
And no residuals. There's not enough room for people. We had to race home. Hi, Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov. Barbara, Ellen.
Shabbat Tov.
Okay.
Wait, Ernie, wait.
What?
Welcome, everybody.
Well,
We are on Shmuel Beis Perek Vav, Pasuk Zayin. We did Pasuk Zayin, but it's just going to review for us. It'll set us back in the tone where we left off. David HaMelech decides to bring the Aron as part of we talked about 3 mitzvahs that Klal Yisrael had when they came into Eretz Yisrael. One is Minui Melech, to appoint a king. The other is Mechias HaMolek, which they accomplished partially. David's going to continue, but they've already accomplished some of that. Now there's Binyan Beis HaBechira. Part of the Binyan Beis HaBechira was bringing up the Aron to Yerushalayim. And we had Peretz Uzzah. Uzzah was one of the people accompanying the Aron, and he stretched out his hand to the Aron inappropriately, because the Aron carries itself. It carries the people that are carrying it, so it doesn't need somebody to carry it. So he was struck, as the pasuk in Pasuk Zayin says, "Vaychaf Hashem be'Uzzah vayakeu Sham Elokim al Hashal vayamet Sham im Aron Elokim." And the Abarbanel gives us four reasons why he was killed. Number one, Shlohai lehem litein Aron bagala, rak haya lehem lalviim lisauto al kipfeihem. The Aron had to be carried on your shoulders, not on a wagon. That was a bizoyon to the Aron to be carried that way. Bet, lo haya l'shum adam ligab Aron gufa. You couldn't touch the Aron. Right, the Aron had rings, and there were sticks through the rings, and you had to carry the poles, and not the Aron itself. Gimel, loyal Uzzah shay Yisrael ishtamish ba'Aron. Davodah hidavka livnei Levi. Uzzah was not a Levi, and the carrying of the Aron, as described in the Chumash, that's the Bnei Kahat. The sons of Levi have to carry the Aron. Daled, Uzzah yachaser munah, b'mesh savar she'yipol Aron me'al hagala. Uzzah lacked faith. He thought that the Aron would fall. V'lo lamad mimaseh b'avarat ha'Yarden sharon nasat nosaf. When they crossed the Yarden, the Aron carried the Kohanim. They flew over the Yarden. So the Aron can carry itself, doesn't need kol sheken she'yisatz atzmo v'lo yipol. That was a chet, lack of emunah. Pasuk chet.
He,
Yes.
but he had like an immediate reaction. It sounds like if he had like a lot of time to think about it, he would have realized that, but he didn't want the Aron to fall.
But we
He
just,
time when he saw it falling, he
but
felt,
Ellen, you have to have emunah. You have to have emunah in your bones. If you were somebody with emunah, you would understand that the Aron can't fall. The Aron carried the people who carried it. They had all seen at the Yarden that when the Kohanim, they flew over the Yarden, like El Al. So if you were a bar emunah, you would not have, it's in your bones. Even you wouldn't do a reflex action because you would understand that the Aron doesn't need human
Seems
help.
So harsh.
I think I saw something that, he wasn't, that he still had, over here it says that Uzzah earned an exalted place in the world to come. This, it says over here, I don't know who he's quoting. The verse describes Uzzah's act not as a sin, but as a blunder, since Uzzah meant well, although a proper respect for and awareness of the sanctity of the ark was lacking. The sages infer from the phrase by the ark of God that Uzzah earned an exalted place in the world to come.
Yeah, because he says Vayamet im. They learn it from the diuk in the pasuk. Vayamet sham im Aron Elokim means he died with the Aron. That's where Chazal learn that he has Olam Haba as well. And we went through some tirutzim last time. David HaMelech thought to take it in a wagon because the din of taking it by your shoulder was dafka in the midbar. But the kedusha of the Aron was even bigger than the kedusha of the Mishkan. So, Vaycharla David, ala sheparatz Hashem peretz pe'uza. Charora is a lotion of like turning black. David was embarrassed. Not that he got angry. It means it was an embarrassment to David that here David it wants to do something good and it ended in a disaster. And it's called Peretz Uzzah.
Do we know that?
The Gemara in Sota Lamed Hey says Amr Abelazar shenishtanu panav kecharora, meaning his face turned black because he was so mitzta'er about what had happened. That Uzzah died, and he died because of him. He was involved in it as well. Yes, Ellen?
I lost my train of thought. Okay.
So pasuk tes. Vayirat David es Hashem bayomahu. Normally, vayomer ech yavoy elai Aron Hashem. Normally, David worshipped God through Ava and Simcha. But now there was an Oynesh to Uzzah. And here, David is on the Madreg of Yiras HaOnesh. Not the normal Simcha. He's more bepachad. And how is he going to bring the Aron now to Yerushalayim? He's troubled. How is he going to do it? Yud. V'lo'avad David la'asirei lavet Aron Hashem al Ir David. So David doesn't want to bring the Aron in what had just happened to Ir David. Vayateu David Beit Oved Edom Hagiti. He is from Gat, the city of Gat, but he's a Jew. In fact, he's a Levi. In Divrei Yomim, it says the Oved Edom v'Yiel has-shoarim. He is the gatekeeper. One of the jobs of the Levium was to guard the gates in the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash. So number one, he's a Levi. So you can see already David is going through the tshuva process. We read of the Abarbanel, one of the problems with Uzzah was he wasn't a Levi. So now they're going to bring it to the house of a Levi. Number one. By the way, in Divrei Yomim, it says that Oved Edom was also Mina Meshorerim. Because it says, Umatityahu velifleu mikneu veved Edom bikinorot ala shminit lanetzach. That not only was he, did he watch the gates, he was a singer. Now the Malbim asks a kasha. The Rambam brings the Leviim muzharim shlo yaseh echad mlachas chaveiro. Each Levi is appointed to a job. He's supposed to do his job. He's not supposed to do the job of his friend. Because it says in Chumash, ish al avodato ve'el masa'o. The ein levi laso shnei malachos. So the Rambam explains, kan lo hayashir lavodah beis hamikdash. That here they were not yet in the status of Beis Hamikdash, so there wasn't really shear. And the reason they brought musical instruments, because we described that there were musical instruments that was covered alone, that was not als this classic shear that accompanies a korban. The Or Sameach, who's the author of the Meshech Chochmah, he gives another teretz that the din that Levim couldn't have multiple jobs, that's in the Beis Hamikdash. But here was Bama. Remember, we talked about now the korbanos were offered on a private Bama. That time, a Levi could be a Meshurah and a gatekeeper as well.
How do we know that he's it just says Oved Edom?
Because we're bringing psukim from Divrei Hayomim. There are 3 prakim in Divrei Hayomim that exactly describe this whole episode, but in greater detail. So the Radak, the Malbim are constantly, if you look in the Meforshim, are constantly bringing other psukim in Divrei Yomim to expand the detail that is going on here. Okay, Yud Aleph. Vayeshev Aron Hashem, Beit Oved Edom Agiti Shlosha Chadashim. The Aron now is in the house of Oved Edom Agiti 3 months. Vayivarach Hashem et Oved Edom et Kol Beito. And Rashi says, Ishto ushmona kaloseh yaldu shisha bani beker mechad. Oved's wife and his 8 daughter-in-laws, they had 6 children in one shot. Now, here I want to read a famous Chazal. This is from Brochei Samech Gimel. Vayivarech Hashem es Oved Edom ba'avur Aron Elokim. V'alot dvarim kal v'chomer. There's a kal v'chomer here. Uma Aron shloi ochal v'shasa. The Aron is a guest that you take into your house, but he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink. Elakibet v'ribet lefanav. What he did is he washed the floor in front of it. He kept it clean. He would sweep and mop. A person who welcomes Talmidei Chachamim into his home as guests, umachilo umashkeyo, and feeds him and drinks him, umaneo min chosov, and gives from his assets. Alachas kama v'kama, that the person is going to be blessed. Mai bracha. This is Rashi brings this Chazal. So it just shows the power of Achnosis Orchim. Power of Achnosis Orchim. How much bracha can a person get? There's also from Bamidbar Rabbah, Midrash Rabbah says the following. On Rav Husseinu, Shnei dvar mayu kedoshim u'gedolim. There were 2 very holy objects in Klal Yisrael. U'kisfurim b'nei adam shem kashim. But the average person thought that they were problematic. They were afraid of them. וכדי שלא הוציא לעז עליהם, כוסף בהם דבר גדול של שבח וברכה. On both of these two items, the Tanakh praises them with great shvach. Ve'elu hen ktoires ve'aron. The incense that was offered as a korban and the aron. Ktoires, shelo yomer adam kosher hu ktoires. Al yodo mesu nadav aviyu. For example, in the nadav aviyu, they offered the ktoires in a way that wasn't appropriate. That caused their death. Vayodo nisrafu edas koirach. If in the test, the Adas Korach were told to take Ktoiras, and the Ktoiras consumed them. Vayodo nitztara Uziyahu. Later on in Tanakh, Uziyahu became a mitzvah because of Ktoiras. So people thought that the Ktoiras was a dangerous thing. Lekach kosav HaKadosh Baruch Hu malak doyle b'aktor shenitli Yisrael al yado. Shenemar, remember when during the plague, when in the Midbar, the Jews were dying, Vayikach Aaron kasher diber Moshe, Vayaretz atoch hakal, Vayitein et haktoret, Vayichaper al ha'am, Vateatzar magefa. So the Torah had to show, don't be afraid of the Ketores. The Ketores is a wonderful thing. Aaron is also given a great shvach here. It says that Vayivarech Hashem es Ovid, because of the Aaron, Ovid was blessed. Because the same thing. Shlo yomer adam kosher hu Aaron. Who, look what happened when the Plishtim got the Aaron. They all got hemorrhoids. Hu ika Plishtim. What happened when the Aaron was brought back by the cows to Beit Shemesh? There was a huge plague and thousands of people were killed. Harag Banshe Beit Shemesh. Look what happened now by Uzzah when they try to bring up the Aaron and Uzzah dies. Who Harag Uzzah? Lekach kasav bo bracha shnemar vayvarch Hashem es Ovid Edom es kol beso lelamdech she'en tors v'Aaron horgin ela avonos horgin. It's not these items that are killing people, it's sins that are keep killing people. We talked about this Kal Vachomer, that if you benefit Talmidei Chachamim that you host in your house, you will be zoichet to the same brachas. So from here you see, the Musar Nevi'im says, looks like a Talmid Chacham is like the Torah, that the Alfinan covered a Talmid Chacham, he covered a Torah. However, the Kiddushin, they say, boy, Ma'olam if they say for Torah. And you're supposed to stand up in front of the Sefer Torah. Umasik milifnei loim de'oimdim mifanei loy kol sheken. There they learn the Kal Vachomer opposite. If we stand up when a Talmid Chacham comes in the room, Alachas kama v'kama that we should stand up by the Torah itself. Harei dekavas haTorah gedolah mikavas haTalmid Chacham. So how come here Chazal learned the Kal Vachomer from the Torah to a Talmid Chacham, implying that the Talmid Chacham is greater? Nira Loimar, this is the Musar Nevi'im, the Rebbe in Denver. The Bizman Shal Talmid Chacham Yoshev Loimed, who kamo a Sefer Torah mamish. When a Talmid Chacham is sitting learning Torah, he's like mamish a Sefer Torah. Ki hu az mechubar ima Torah. When you're learning Torah, you're connected to Torah, and you're like a Sefer Torah. Rak bizman she'ena osek b'Torah, az a chashivosek tanim a chashivos Torah. When a Talmid Chacham is not learning Torah, then the chashivos of such a person is not as great as Torah. So l'chein kan shaper onru the misha machzik Talmid Chacham beveso. A person who supports the Talmid Chacham in his house and gives him food and drink, and that Talmid Chacham who yoshev sham v'oisik b'Torah, it's like you had the Aron in your house. There, a Talmid Chacham who's not learning Torah, he's on a less madrega than the Torah itself. Okay, so that's hi Harold, good book. Hi Magda. We're on Shmuel Beis, Pasuk Yud Beis. So they brought the Aron. They didn't bring the Aron to Ir David. They bring it to the house of Oved Edom Agiti.
Yeah.
There for 3 months. By the way, 3 months. How did they have all these pregnancies? So in such a short period of time. So they were pregnant and they gave birth after 15 days in this period of time. That's why they had so many children. It was special bracha. So Vayugad lemelech David leimor. So word gets out to David. Beirach Hashem is based Oved Edom Eskol Shelo. The house of Oved Edom, because the Aron is there, is being blessed. Bavur Aron Elokim. Vayelech David. Vayalet Aron Elokim Beit Oved Edom Ir David b'simcha. This is a signal to David that whatever problem HaKadosh Baruch Hu had when they tried to bring it up with Uzzah, it seems to be corrected now. And so the covet, the good that is now being shown, shows that the covet that they're paying the Aron is appropriate. Now you notice they use the adjective besimcha, and originally it says David v'chol beis Yisrael mesachakim. They were sort of making merry. Here, when they're bringing it up now, finally, it's besimcha. There's no schok v'kalus rosh. There's no merriment. It's not being jolly. It's simcha, not schok. Schok is some kind of physical simcha. The Abarbanel simcha, he keneged nefesh uvahasagata. It's thinking about it. It's a more mental happiness.
Can I say?
Yes.
Can I just say the fact that there was bracha, there was a lot of blessing in the home of Oved. So people associated the Aron with bracha, and it countered, the tragedy that happened.
Yes.
I think so. That simcha emanated from the fact that there was, bracha, and that was, brought by the Aron.
Yes, and you notice, so they're correcting a lot of. So first of all, here also, they brought up the Aron on their shoulders. They did not use a wagon, and it was only Levim. They used the badim. So they corrected all the problems that were identified as problems in the first bringing up. And not only that, look at Pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayiki tzadu nosei Aron Hashem shishat tzadim. Every time they took 6 steps, vayizbach shor unuri, they would offer korbanos. What happened was Uzzah took 6 steps, and that's when he reached out his hand, and he was killed. So now, every time they took 6 steps and they saw nothing wrong, they had to give, they had to offer a korbanos b'simcha, there was massive korbanos offered on this journey from Oved Edom up until Ir David. By the way, the person who gave David the Medrash Rabbah also in the Midbar Rabbah, that when Keshechazer David Lushalayim, after the death of Uzzah, Ba Achitofel, right? We're going to be dealing with Achitofel a lot, but this is the first time we see Achitofel gives advice to David. David, you made a mistake with psukim that even a kid in Cheder knows. V'livnei kahat lo natan, ki avodat hakodesh aleihem b'katef yisau. Achitofel tells the Alavim nosim et ha'aron. Ve'en ha'kohanim nosim. Leviim have to do it. Number two, b'kateif. V'lo ba'agala. You have to carry it on your shoulder, not in a wagon. And therefore, vayisub bnei Leviim et aron Elokim. That's David gave commands based on Achitophel's advice. That may be in Divrei Yomim. Yeah. Azamar David Lola said aron Elokim kim Alavim. Because it says in Divrei Yomim there by Subne Alavim et aron Elokim. Again, we have to keep our eye in both the psukim here and the psukim in Divrei Yomim to flesh out the details. And they brought Shiva Parim v'Shiva Elim. They brought 7 cows and 7 rams. And each time they stopped. By the way, when we take out the Torah on Shabbos, we say Shema Yisrael, and then when we leave the area of the Aron, we say Gadlul ad Hashem iti u'neromama shmo yachdav. How many words? 6 words. And mishum diyesh bo sheish tevos keneged shisha tzodim shel nosei Aron. This, because we're carrying the Torah from the Aron to the Bima, we remind of these 6 steps by saying that pasuk, which has 6 words. So every time we say that, we can remember these 6 steps that we learned in Navi. Yudalit. V'David mecharker b'chol oz lifnei Hashem. David is dancing with all his might in front of Hashem. V'David chogor ephod ba. David is wearing like a nightshirt. I would describe an ephod as they would wear mechnasayim, but l'chora here he was just wearing an ephod. And we're going to see that because he was dancing so mightily and wearing an ephod, so his legs might have been uncovered as he was dancing. And we'll see his wife Michal is going to take umbrage at that.
Yeah, I find it very surprising. Here one has to be so careful because of the previous incident that, you would think that he would be more medactic, more meticulous about what he was wearing.
We're going to see, but here he's misasek in a mitzvah of Hashem, and he is being mashpil his own personal kavod for kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we're going to see here David is vindicated. Michal is, we'll see, we're going to contrast Michal, who's from Beis Shaul, and they were very concerned about personal dignity, versus David, who very much is a humble person, and he gives away his personal dignity for the dignity and kavod of Hashem. So David v'chol Beis Yisrael malim es Aron Hashem, b'truah v'kol shofar. David, they're bringing up the Aron with shofar. Again, not with the musical instruments that they did initially, right? But rather with a shofar to instill fear in people's hearts. You can see the different approach they're taking. It also remember they blew shofar matan Torah, and they're bringing the Aron with the Torah. So again, it's the connection of shofar with this event. Tet Zayin. V'hayaron Hashem ba'ir David. Okay, the Aron Hashem comes to Ir David. By the way, those of us who visit Yerushalayim, as you go to the Kotel, and you come around the place called Silwan, which today is primarily Arab. There are some Jews who've moved into the neighborhood. Most archaeologists feel that that's where Ir David was. So it says, Umichal bat Shaul nishkefa be'ad hachalon. She's sitting by the window. Vatere et hamelech David mefazez umecharkel lifnei Hashem. And she sees this spectacle of David dancing in front of Hashem, vativaz lo beliba. And she's embarrassed by it. She thinks it's a bizoyon. for the covet of the melech. So first of all, does anybody see something in this pasuk that's similar to something else that appears somewhere else in a pasuk?
She's named always as the daughter of Shaul.
This is Michal bat Shaul, his wife.
I know, but why is it always saying Michal Bel Shaul? We know she is the daughter, no?
So,
It's the
so that's a
wife?
good, but so again, we're going to see that Michal's opinion here, she derives it from her father Shaul. So that could be a reason why the pasuk emphasizes it, Marios. It's a good point. I was talking about more when it says Nishkafa ba'ara chalon. That is said by somebody else. It's said by Aim Sisra. If you remember in Shiras Dvora, it says Aim Sisra Nishkafa ba'ara chalon. That remember Yael kills Sisra, and then Dvora describes the melancholy of the mother of Sisra waiting by the window for her son to come home, and she is sort of wailing, crying, and we learn Hilchos Trua, how you blow the shofar Trua from Aim Sisra. But I was struck. I don't have yet a limud yet, but it's exactly the same imagery here by Michal. It says Nishkafa Barachalon. So we just have to think about that. Maybe somebody will think about it during the week and come up with something. So basically, she thought She'ein ze miderech hamelech, even lifnei ha'aron. And the Beis Avia in the house of Shaul, the covet of the Melech was even greater than covet HaMakom. Like remember, when Shmuel tears his garment, he begs Shmuel to come back with him. Kamdeni na neged ziknei ami v'neged Yisrael. He wanted Shmuel to go back. He didn't want to be poigeh in his covet. Number two, the Kliyakar says she thought that Malchus requires special kavod, that there should be fear on the people. And however, there's a concept of ein chachma ve'ein eitza ve'ein tfuna l'neged Hashem. When it comes to Hashem, there's no kavod of the melech; it all goes away. The Rambam says, "Hasimcha sheyismach adam b'asiyat hamitzvah uvavat ha'el shetziva behen." The simcha that a person has doing a mitzvah, avodah gdolahi. Whoever prevents himself from that simcha, you should be punished. Like when it says, "Tachas asher lo avaratas Hashem lokecha b'simcha uvetuv levav." Somebody who's, I have a certain appearance that I have to show, and I'm going to hold myself back. He's considered a chote ve'shote. And that's what Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei. Al titadar lifnei melech. It says the Rambam, M'cholam mashpil atzmo u'makel gufon b'mkomot elu, hu agadol ha'mechubad oved me'ava. He is a great person who's showing that he's worshiping Hashem ba'ava. Now, you might ask me, well, what about the halacha, melech shemochel al kvodo en kvodo mochel? A melech can't forget his covet. Now, there's a debate in Masechta Sanhedrin. Can a melech participate in chlitza? Let's say a melech is the brother, right, who is in a situation, doesn't want to be miyabim the wife that fell to him, and the chlitzah process has to happen. So she has to, the woman has to remove the shoe and has to spit. So Rabbi Yehuda says, mutar hamelech lichlos, af she'ein lo fi kavod hamelech. But melech shemochel kvod ein kvod mochel. So how is that allowed? Atam mishum de mitzvahi. That when it comes to a mitzvah, a melech can be mochel on his kavod. Here we see that since this is the mitzvah bringing, it's part of the binyan beis hamikdash, that that's how they explain the kol shenikar shedavar zenasa lekavod mitzvah lekavod Hashem in choshev davar mevuzah. It's not considered a bizoyon, that which David HaMelech participated in. Okay, that's this whole debate between Michal and David.
Was it Michal who her father gave her to David, and then she had another husband?
Yes, we went through this, Palti ben Laish.
Right.
But he never lived with, remember we went through like 5 different pshatim, how to learn that sugya. Either he gave a divorce or he never lived with her, really was not married. She was a shomer. We went through many. But what I thought you were going to ask, Michal is punished here. Michal's not going to have any more children because of this statement she made.
Did she have children? I don't think she had children with
She had
David.
children. We'll see. We're going to get to that pasuk tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Zion. Vayaviutar on Hashem. They brought the Aron Vayatzigo Tobim Komo. They put it in its place. Betocha Ohel. Now remember, there's no Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is going to be built only by Shlomo HaMelech. 38 years later, however, after David dies, and it's going to be 3 years into Shlomo HaMelech's rule. So now they put it in a tent there. Remember, the Mishkan we talked about is in Givon, right? Asher Natalo David, but they made a tent for the Aron. Vayal David Ola Livnei Hashem Ushlamim. And in Oved's house, it wasn't a bias, but it's only temporary. They knew that the Aron there was a Kabbalah that Yerushalayim is here at Kodesh. That's where the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built. But until the Beis Hamikdash is built, they didn't want to put the Aron under a ceiling. So they put it in a tent like they did in the Mishkan. Then there's a major debate what Aron was brought here. So it was the Aron that was taken captive by the Plishtim. And there's a machlokas. Some say it was one Aron. In that Aron was the Luchos and the Shivrei Luchos. We learned at Chazal that Shaul had run and stolen the Luchos. So there's only Shivrei Luchos here. Others say there were 2 Luchos. One that was taken in battle with them, and one that was not. And the one that was taken in battle was the one that was taken here. And the Radak says that the Aron here is the one that has the Shivrei Luchos, because Shaul had saved the other Luchos. Now, I want to read, I mentioned it, I mentioned it by heart, but I want to read the Meiri from Megillah Tes. I'm reading the Meiri. That once they came to Nova Givon after the Mishkan was destroyed, you could now offer korbanos on a bama. Kloimer, Balanova achar shecharva shilo v'higla aram b'yad plishtim b'mei Eli HaKohen uBalanova v'eviu shamas hamishkan v'samizbech avaloha aron. So in Nov, there's the Mishkan, the Mizbech, but no Aron. Sharei b'yad plishtim haya. V'chein bizman shechriv Shaul's Nov ira kohanim. When Shaul destroyed Nov 13 years later, v'eviu hamishkan v'mizbech legivon v'lo haya Aron imo. Shekvar yamugla b'yad plishtim. It's also not with them. The Afkish Chazulahem, even when the Aron came back with the cows, lo kavuim mishkan mizbech, lo benov, lo begivon. The Aron was never reunited with the Mishkan and the Mizbech, not in Nov Givon. Mipnei shemisyarim ayu alav. They were afraid again that maybe it would be taken captive. Vayuma midno so barea mivtzar. They were in protected places. The Chen Shamad Zman bebayis beveis Oved Edom ad shalei David Letzion. So again, it was not with the Mishkan. And it says the Meiri, Kozman zehoil v'loy ha'aron kavua im hamizbeach hutru abamos. Somehow, it's the Aron being separated from the Mizbeach is why bamos could be done in your private backyard. Baal Yerushalayim v'nibnei beis olamim V'hukva hakol al mechono, v'aron etzel mizbeach asra bomis. When the aron is next to the mizbeach, then there's a prohibition of bomis. So we mentioned that last week, but here it is in the Meiri itself. Yud Ches. Vayichal David me'alot ha'olev ha'shlamim vayivarach et ha'am b'shem Hashem tzvakos. After David offers karbonis, he gives a bracha. Now, if you look, when Aaron HaKohen, after they dedicated the Mishkan, Vayisa Aaron et yadav el ha'am vayivarchem. Aaron did a birchas kohanim to the people. So David HaMelech learned from Aaron HaKohen that when you're bringing korbanos and you're involved in the Beis HaMikdash, that's a mesugal time to give brachas. What bracha did he say? Hodu Lashem kiru bishmo, hodiu ba'amim alilotav. Shiru lo zamru lo sichu b'chonavotav. This is the hodu that we say in the morning in Shachris. Zichro niflos of asher asa. This refers to the miracles that the cows brought back the Aron by itself, and they sang Shira. And that's why we say Hodu right after Korbanos, right? We say Korbanos, then we say this Hodu. So the same thing. David brings Korbanos, now we say the Hodu. So it's a nice, when we daven every morning, we should think about this connection. Pasuk Yutes. He also gave them presents. He gave them all who were there bread, other gifts to go home with. Chaf. So then he goes home to bench his family. Now the wife is going to give her husband a talking to. Vatomer, Manich Bada Yom Melech Yisrael. Wow, what kind of covet did you have today? Asher Nigla Yom Leinei Mahot Avadav, that you revealed you revealed yourself to the young girls. Ki galot niglot achara rekim. She chastises him in a derech lag. And remember, we talked about Shola Melech's extreme tznius. So that she got from her family. David says, Hashem chose me to be king, not you, not your father, and not any of his household. My dancing in Simcha is all covet to Hashem. I don't care about my own covet. Like we explained all of that. And in fact, that's why Hashem was mamlich me. My covet is not totally from the nation, but it's me'atzmi u'me'es Hashem. Unekolti od mizot v'hiti shafal beinai. I see myself low in my eye. V'imamot hashamarta imami chabeda. I will rather be honored by the imahot who become mothers in Yisrael. Kolamarbe, it says in B'midbar Rabbah, Kolamarbe kvod shamayim u'memayit kvod atzmo, kvod shamayim misrabe. Person who shows kavod Hashem and it minimizes his own kavod, there's no greater kavod for Hashem than that. You find that by David Melech Yisrael, shelo nohag atzmo b'gaiva l'fnei hamakom, ela boiza atzmo l'fanav kehediot l'harbos kvod shel makom Hashem. The Mesilas Yesharim says, hakavod hu min hamichsholot hayoter gdolim asher la'adam. Looking for honor is a great stumbling block for people. The efshar lo liot eved naman lekono kozman shuchas lakvod atzmo. You cannot be a true servant of Hashem without having that midah. We see the greatest Moshe Rabbeinu was on of mikol adam. It's not desire for kavod, it's the opposite. And therefore, like Ellen, Pasuk Chav Gimel, Ulamicha bat Shaul lahaya la yeled ad yomot. So This is a punishment on her words. She had children up until now because there are some children bas michal, but from now on, she didn't have any more children. And
I have something here
Yeah.
that said that she did give birth on the day of her death.
From where?
I mean, she died in childbirth.
Child in childbirth,
Child
right?
in
I don't know
childbirth.
what the source is, but
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very, very important parak. I said it's the Haftorah of, we said Parsha Shmini, right? The death of Nadav Avihu, and we last week or 2 weeks ago, and the last time we learned, we saw the connection between that, and we'll start Mirz Hashem Parak Zayin next week. Again, I think for now we should learn Shabbos 9:15
And
because
next
Sunday
week is
night
Yontif, no?
wait,
Oh.
is it in Twitch?
Yeah, we
yeah.
can't. No,
Next-
next week we
next-
can't do it.
Next Saturday night and Sunday are Shavuos. So, but I'm
Right.
saying we're going to switch back to Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos 9:15, because I see Sunday night post-COVID now. There's something going on almost every week, a wedding and an event, a simcha, charity, or something like that. I think we'll have better luck not having interruptions by Motzei
But if
Shabbos,
they don't
because
want to, you
but-
can change it back.
but we can always change it back if we see it doesn't work. Okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
About Michal,